Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Agents of MACE. Today, we're continuing our watch-through of Jessica Jones with Episode 8, and boy, oh boy, are things just still getting creepier and more unsettling. I keep thinking, like, oh, sure, one of these episodes, it's going to turn the corner, and we're going to, I don't know, work towards catching Kilgrave, or do something fun instead of something sad and depressing and scary, and no. That's kind of still where we are. So, excuse me. Sorry. So first thoughts, I guess.
I mean, this is the continuing building blocks. Like, so where I'm kind of at within the series as a whole is basically caught up to the first time I watched it. So it's just basically heightening like that excitement of like what's gonna happen next, because I'm so used to series being like 10 episodes, so this being episode 8, it almost has this feeling of like, okay, we're about to get to like the really big moments and like how's the season gonna wrap up, but then you realize like, no, this is 13 episodes. So like it just feels like, you know, in a way I kind of wish they would have kind of sped up some of this process quite a bit, because you know, you're still getting a lot more context within this episode of just character development. So I'm very curious to see, like, with having 13 episodes, like how are these final 5 gonna kind of conclude this season. But yeah, it definitely kind of builds up the suspense.
How about you, Lisa?
I think this might have been my favorite episode so far, and favorite has like an asterisk next to it, because like while this was very suspenseful, entertaining, we got a lot of, as Luke was saying, like character development in this episode. Like none of these are fun watches. This is not something that you're going to like turn on a Saturday because you've got some free time and want to, you know, like kick it with some of your comfort characters. This was, I feel like this is an episode that we've been building up to for a while, because it's the first one that has been primarily Jessica and Kilgrave spending time together. And so, of course, there's a lot of headbutting, but we also get some background on Kilgrave that we didn't have before. But just gobs and gobs of creepiness that we're having to deal with and talk through today. So, yes, this was an interesting episode. It was one that asks a lot of moral and ethical questions, but still not what I would call a fun watch.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think this episode tries really hard to, I don't know, humanize, I guess, Kilgrave in a way. So we're like, you know, we finally kind of stepped a little bit away. I guess we're still, you know, in line with Jessica's backstory, but they do try to step a little bit away to explain sort of Kilgrave's backstory, and maybe like why he is the way he is. But we're not supposed to like him, right? Like they try to make you feel like, oh, that, you know, we learn a little bit about like where his childhood. And you're like, oh, that kind of stinks. But I don't know. I feel like that's not enough for me to think that this guy is good or I should care about him in any way. So. Yeah.
Even his whole demeanor is just like, yeah, I'm not good. And I don't even think you should care about me. This is just what I do. Like, it's just like, he's just like, this would be my natural instinct, is just to kind of basically tell these people to kill themselves. Like, whatever.
Right.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
You know,
but I think people are just a tool for him as opposed to.
It's really trying to get like, what is the end all for Kilgrave? Because it's like, if you're just roaming around, not caring about the actions of people, like what's your final objective? Like, where do you truly want to get?
And he tries to out trauma Jessica, which is gross in its own way. It's like, oh, you think you had it bad? She's like, yes. He's like, well, watch my video of how I had it bad. And he did, but gosh, that doesn't excuse anything that he has ever done since he was 10 years old.
Yeah. It's very Stranger Things vibes.
Yeah.
If for any listeners that are familiar with the series Stranger Things, you get a moment kind of midway where he finally reveals like he's been holding on to this thumb drive, which he made Jessica dig up whenever he had her under control. But yeah, that whole moment initially, like when I saw it, I was just like, ooh, Stranger Things. Like this is kind of, and I'm wondering if like Stranger Things kind of took a reference or nod from this, you know?
Stranger Things is nothing if not references and nods.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But even still, like that whole moment of them just watching over a computer screen, I really wish we would have, like, instead of watching it through a screen, it would have taken us to the room.
Yeah.
And because you never see his parents.
Yeah.
And I wish it would have gone more into that story just to build up that of like, because I still left this episode. I get what he went through, but I wanted more from that.
Yeah.
Because it's still like, it's hard to like, do we really care about Kilgrave? Because there's even moments earlier on when like they're going back and forth and Jessica's just like, you did this to me. You did this to me. And he's like, I hate these words. Like you're saying, almost like to, like we said earlier, like humanize them. But I just wanted more from that.
Yeah. I feel like it's interesting because they did have more episodes to explain backstory and they chose to spend like 90% of it on Jessica, which I get. The show's called Jessica Jones, but her backstory is kind of like the same. Like every time we learn about her backstory, it's like Kilgrave controlled her. Okay, next episode, we're going to learn more about Jessica's backstory where Kilgrave controlled her. And it's like, we got it. Kilgrave controlled her. Why don't you expand the backstory to some other people? Which, if I remember correctly, they do in the later seasons. They spend a little more time doing backstory on other people, and Jessica is just like the main character. But in this, it does kind of seem like they were like, oh, we should give you some backstory on Kilgrave. Here's a little bit, make you feel bad for him as bad guy. But to your point, you're like, well, I don't feel bad for him. He's an awful, scary, terrible person. So now you just explain to me, I guess, part of why he's that way.
Well, this is the first time we've gotten like how he got these powers, because I remember us kind of speculating earlier if this was something that he was born with. And now we know that it's something he got because of these experiments his parents performed on him. So he was made like Jessica was.
Which is an interesting thing in its own space. I get that this was before, Marvel had any rights to mutants or mutations or any of that. I feel like the idea of scientifically accidentally creating powers is like it's not a new thing in comic books, especially in the Marvel universe. Captain America, like, first Avenger, right? That's what he's called. So it's like, yeah, okay. But I feel like it was an interesting route to go in this only because, again, it's weird that they're trying to humanize him so that we feel bad for him when, like, he's like the epitome of like gross and terrible human. So like, I'm not going to feel bad that his parents experimented on him and now he has these superpowers that he chooses to use for terrible things.
Which he tries to play off as that he can't control it. So he says he sometimes can't tell whenever people are doing things like based on their own free will or because he wants them to, which is such a load. We know that he decides when he's controlling people and when he's not. But his power in and of itself, it makes it to where there's not really a good side of it. Like even whenever he goes in, in this episode and he saves that family, it's by taking away the free will of another person. And so that's always icky ethical grounds. I mean, yes, that produced a net good. That family is safe and that guy went to jail. But using that person as a means to achieve that is not cool. There's not a good version of this power, even though he was really excited whenever he actually saved somebody. He's like, what? This is awesome.
Right. Which is another point to what you just said, though, where he claims to not have full control over the power, but then we have yet to see him tell someone to do something and they didn't do it. So
yeah, he makes a point where he's like, I've got to be very choice with my words, because depending on what he says to someone, it could lead to something that, again, he probably had no intention of them doing, but at the same time, does he really care?
Right, exactly.
And it wouldn't happen if he wasn't doing it to control people. If he wasn't in the middle of a mind control.
It's funny because, like, when I remember when he said that, my first thought is, I always have this, like, I don't know, probably like once a month, I have a dream where I get 3 wishes and I have to, like, think about how to ask for my wish in a way that it doesn't get messed up. Because I don't know if anyone watches What We Do in the Shadows, but in the most recent season, there's like a whole string of episodes where Nandor has a genie that is granting him 1,000 wishes. And he keeps making these wishes and they turn out wrong because of how he explains them. So he has to, like, think about how he asks the wish. And that's what I thought about when he said that. I have to be choice with my words. It's like, because you could say, like, get me milk from the fridge, and that person could walk to a store called the Fridge and steal a bottle of milk out of it because you didn't specify, like, get the milk out of the fridge in the kitchen in this house or something, So it's interesting. I wish that there would be a little more explanation behind that, because, again, the things that we have seen him ask have been pretty vague as far as, like, direction. So, and I mean, even in this episode, we see him, like, have the wait staff come in with, like, knives to the neck. And it's like, well, what was the ask there? Or the request? I don't really know the suggestion, I guess, because that's, like, his power, right? It's not, he doesn't, like, ask you a question and you do the thing that he asked you. It's like he suggests that you do something and then they do it.
Yeah. It's just, hey, if we're not back in 2 hours, do this.
Right. So I don't know. I think the scientific experiment side of it, I probably could have done without. I think it would have been more interesting for me, at least, if he had just, like, been born with those powers, because I don't think that the science thing comes back at all. I don't think that there's, like, they catch him by using science, or they figure out a way to reverse the effect on him with science. Like, I don't think the science part of it ever comes back. That's literally just like, this is how he got his power, and his parents did it, so he's a little messed up. And it's like, just make it so he was born with the powers, and move on.
Just be true to being a mutant, Like, right. I mean, I get it. I was, like, kind of reading, like, if you look at the comics, he's he's a spy in, like, the Cold War and gets doused in chemicals, and that kind of falls into, like, the classic Spider-Man villains, right? If this was following trope with that, then it's like, oh, how did you get your powers? Oh, you fell in that? I fell in this. Like, there's that bonding there for those kind of villains, but
which I'm more fine with, I think, than like,
but I get the argument here of, like, trying to make him fit within this world.
And it does make us ask questions, because these are not powers that he ever asked for. It's something that happened to him as a result of abuse. So if it's not dredging up sympathy, it's at least making us feel like, it's making it more wibbly and gray.
That is the running theme with all of these Defenders characters and this whole Netflix series. Like, it's a little bit grittier and darker than the MCU. They try to make things a little more, air quotes, realistic. And I think some of it works and some of it doesn't. But I guess it's all interesting, right? I'm not like, I don't watch this. I'm watching this through the second time. I don't really remember a lot of what happened. And I'm still enjoying watching it. Like, sure, it's creepy and unsettling, and I'm not like, I'm gonna binge this whole show. I love it so much, but it's still entertaining.
Yeah, it's some of these series are tough to binge though. Like I watched this one twice just because I really wanted to absorb it, and then I started episode 9 and stopped like halfway through because it's just like it's a lot.
Yeah, they're heavy and they're really long. Like
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
you know, all I want is for Disney Plus to give me like longer episodes, but we are already getting, you know, hour-long episodes. Basically, you watch a movie every
Mhm.
week,
Mm-hmm.
but we only get 6 of them, right? Or 8 of them, maybe. This is 13. So it's like you're watching 13 movies that are all one long story. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just like, whoa, I need a break from this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
The stuff he did with the house was extra super next level creepy, where he
Yeah.
restored it to the way it
Mhm.
was whenever Jessica lived in it. And he's even very proud of himself. He's like, I used a microscope, or not a microscope, a magnifying glass to see which CDs you had. And so I could get all those same CDs and put them in your childhood bedroom. Ugh.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so weird because like you'd think that somebody, well, I don't know, maybe not, because I'm trying to imagine like what would it be like if everything you asked for people did, and that's how you grew up. I could imagine that would make you have like a skewed view on the world. But like if I said, oh man, my favorite childhood memory was my childhood room, and I went home and my wife had decorated like an entire room like my childhood room, I would be like, what are you doing? This isn't like, don't do this. This is weird. Like that's just something that's a nice memory, right? I don't want that again. So it's weird that he like put those things together for her in a way that would like, I guess he thought was romantic, but was like super weird. Like, just get her the CDs, right? Don't do the whole house. Just get her the CD. He's like, oh, yeah, I got you all these CDs you used to like.
That's not Kilgrave. It's like if he's committed, if he's going to do this, he's going to.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think he sees this as being like a Beauty and the Beast kind of scenario, where he's like, oh, this is going to be so romantic and we're going to fall in love. And not realizing that he is the Beast and he has, as Jessica points out, no conscience and no morals. So it's not going to go the way he thinks it's going to go.
Mm-hmm. And I forgot how annoying it was in this series that like he never turns purple. He just wears lots of purple and he gets her the purple dress. And there's like all these, you know, we always see him like in purple lights and stuff like that, which like it's a nice nod to the comics. But now the way that Marvel has gone, which is like full on, like I'm going to give you comic accurate costumes all over the place. It's like, gosh, just make him purple. Like just have him turn purple eventually or something, you know? They keep hinting to it and nodding to it, and you keep thinking like, it's gonna happen. Oh, it's gonna happen. It never happens. So it's like, come on.
It's one of those things like I would expect that's gonna be like, you know, if this is a character that's gonna move into the next season, like that would be the finale, is like he's gonna I don't know. They're gonna,
or even, you know, I'm pretty sure I remember the ending of the Kilgrave storyline, but I know that like this Jessica Jones is one of the shows that has also been, I don't think we're getting a new Jessica Jones series, right? But she will show up in the Daredevil series.
it's been the word. Is that, yeah.
So if for whatever reason Kilgrave is a character that we see again, I could see them doing something where they like finally have that payoff and he becomes purple, because we've already seen it with Kingpin, right? Like,
right.
Kingpin in Daredevil, the Netflix series, is a, again, more realistic version of Kingpin. The same Kingpin that we get in Hawkeye is like comic book Kingpin. He's like a little bit bigger than you would imagine a person would ever be. He's super strong. He like takes arrows to the chest and just is like, whatever, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like we're finally getting to the point where they're like, no, it's cool to have comic accurate stuff. So, you know, these characters, and now that we do have mutants, you know, we're just bring him back.
Yeah.
And maybe make him not quite as like scary, creepy. He can still be kind of icky, but make him purple.
He can be so icky.
Just kind of reminds me of like the Power Rangers movie, like the
Oh,
ooze
like,
guy, or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
the purple guy. It's maybe like that.
That's all I want. Just give me some more weird comic accurate stuff. Because I think even in the comics, like in the last one that I read, where like his kids get stolen and then they join the X-Men or whatever, they have almost like a university look. They're like purple-ish, but on the inside they like have all these like sparkly star-looking things, and it's like that would be really cool to see if you were able to pull that off, Marvel.
Yeah,
but we don't even have mutants yet, so who knows? Well, I mean, I am excited to continue watching this series. I'm excited for something more to happen. It seems like they have plans going, right? Like they're going to put like sleeping stuff in his food. They're going to try to catch him. It's building and building and building and building and building. And we still have 5 episodes. So it feels like it's going to keep building until maybe the episode before the last, when finally stuff will start to happen. But again, it's fun to rewatch the series because I don't remember. I don't remember what happens next. I don't even remember if the Kilgrave story ends in this season or if the Kilgrave story ends in next season. I remember the 3rd season, I think. But so, I mean, I do hope it ends in this season, just because it's like, oh my gosh, just catch him already. Like, you're a superhero and you have this really sketchy cop that like does whatever he wants. Is he a cop anymore? I feel like he would have gotten fired by now, right?
Yeah.
He's doing some pretty he's still a cop.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I don't going ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good.
I'm having like a microphone headphone issue.
Oh, you're good.
That was the
Yeah, I guess that's one final note. It's hard to really care about some of these side characters now because we're so like in it with now that Jessica and Kilgrave are together, and she's trying to test his limits to see like, can he actually use his powers for good? And I think all of that is truly just a ploy to throw him off his game so that she can capture him at the end of it. But then you kind of got sprinkled in the side characters, and to be honest, I'm like, I don't really care about them. What's going on? I want to know what's happening here with Kilgrave. Like the only one that really makes sense is we have like the lawyer who's like going through the divorce and pulled out of that meeting because she's in the loop that Jessica and Kilgrave are together. And, it's just like this ties so much into the morals. It's like, are they wanting to put him on trial for all this, whatever he's done? Or like, where is this really going to go? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Well, and the side characters for me, it's like Patsy. I like that story only because I know in a later season that becomes more of a thing, and it's you kind of have to have her character building from this first season for that to like really pay off. But for this season, it is kind of like all she does is come around and kind of be mad at Jessica, right? And not do anything. And then she has this weird cop boyfriend who is a cop, but isn't a cop, but worked for Kilgrave. So like every time he shows up, you're kind of like, I mean, could he still be doing stuff for Kilgrave? And like, this is all a weird ploy to, I don't know. But then he's doing sketchy stuff too. And you're like, well, hold on now. Like, aren't you a cop? And like, you were so upset that you were like mind controlled into almost killing somebody, and now you're like breaking into people's houses and stuff. Like, just
could say he broke bad.
And then as far as the like whole lawyer situation, I get that story needs to be there, but for me, I hate those parts because I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? other than like eventually there's going to be some sort of trial, right? But for now, like, I don't care. she's in it. She's having a divorce, having a hard time with her current soon-to-be ex-wife. What, like, okay, that stinks. I'm sorry. Why are you in the superhero show? Where, give us the actual lawyer, Daredevil.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's weird that we have this whole law side of this show that has nothing to do with Nelson and Murdoch. Like,
yeah,
it's weird.
And we've got Jessica, who at the end of this episode, she finally has Kilgrave in custody. Like, she has taken him. He is incapacitated, and she cannot and will not kill him because she says she can't have another death on her conscience, but also because he has to be alive if she's going to exonerate Hope. So she's left in a not ideal situation here where she knows that there's not a good reason for him to be left alive because he's a huge danger to everyone. Like, he even says if he's going to be a hero, he needs her because he doesn't have a conscience telling him what is the right move to make, because he was just going to kill that guy earlier. So yeah, that's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And it's, the drama with the lawyers just does not seem worth it upside of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that she's like, I don't want to kill him because I don't want another death on my hand. She ripped the head off of somebody. Granted, they were dead, but like, she ripped somebody's head off.
Yeah.
But killing Kilgrave that's too far.
Yeah.
Like, I get that she wants to exonerate Hope. I get it. I understand that, like, you know, that's the good guy side of the story. But at the same time, with his abilities, what are you going to do that's going to stop him from continuing to use it? Like, all I could think is, like, if you put him on trial, how easy could he talk himself out of that? If you put him in jail, how easy could he talk himself out of that? Like, he
can't. Yeah, it's like the only solution is you got to prevent him from talking.
Right. But like,
or keep him under like all the time.
Right. But if you're going to do that, like, what's the difference, right? Or if you're going to put him in a cell with soundproof walls and no one is allowed to have any contact with them, I mean, what's the, you know? Maybe just get rid of him, and then you don't have to worry about him potentially getting out, because it's a Marvel thing. Yeah. So, like, if you put him somewhere, he's going to get out. Like, he could be in there forever.
You know, there's moments in this. I was reading like how there's some similarities to like the logic that like the Punisher would use around things. Because I mean, Punisher is still like, you know, in that scenario with the trapped family, like, he probably would have just killed the guy.
Yeah.
That's just the Punisher. So it's like, could the Punisher be immune to Kilgrave's tactics? Because it's like, he's already on that kind of like, he's got his own logic of how he approaches things. Like, can you really change the Punisher in any way? I don't know. That would be interesting. Like, imagine if Punisher and Kilgrave were in a room together, what would happen?
Right. Yeah. It would be interesting. I know that we have like a way to go before we get to the Punisher stuff in these Netflix series. But I hope that whatever future Punisher stuff we get, they like stick along that line. Either that or they go to like that first Punisher movie. Not the Dolph Lundgren one from like forever ago, but I don't remember his name, but the one that we all know, right? He like fights the Russian and like that is, I think in my mind, like that's the best depiction of the Punisher in anything.
What's the second movie called? I know we shifted over to Punisher talk. Is it
War Journal?
Warzone. I have not watched that one. I definitely want to watch that one because this was the actor that recently passed away, correct? Yeah, Ray Stevenson. I've heard that one. Like, a lot of people are praising that one as like they're what they consider being the best version.
Yeah, it's good, but it's a little darker.
Yeah, I do like the 2004 movie.
Yeah, that one's
and
just fun.
Even with Thomas Jane, like the spin-offs that he did were really good. Another side note.
Oh, go ahead.
Another side note. Was it Dallas that just had their Comic-Con? I think it was in Dallas, and you had Daredevil, Kingpin, and the Punisher there, but no Jessica Jones
Interesting.
or Luke Cage. Or like, I mean, like it's cool to have like those three characters there, you
Right.
know, like to meet the fans. But I mean, it would have been cool if everyone could have been there.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like Marvel is still trying to like keep it a little like, ooh, who's going to show up and when are they going to show up and what's going to happen with Luke Cage and Jessica Jones in the Marvel universe. So like that may be like a Marvel call to be like, we'll put these three, because Punisher was the last series that came out, and then we've seen Daredevil and Kingpin so far. So like,
yeah,
maybe it was like a marketing thing. I don't know. Hopefully we find out soon. Maybe they show up in Secret Invasion.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Again, another crazy, because like we're only getting 6 episodes of Secret Invasion. They released the first 2 early. But yeah, can't wait to see it.
It looks good. I'm excited. It seems like it's something that is going to alter the MCU along the same lines as like Loki introducing the multiverse as like a real thing. And that kind of, clearly altered the Marvel universe. So this seems like another one of those like big universe changing storylines. So I'm interested to see how this is going to affect all future Marvel properties.
Oh yeah.
Are we always going to be suspicious that somebody may not be who they say they are? Or
yeah, I guess this makes me want to go rewatch Captain. I just need to get refamiliarized with the scrolls again. So Captain Marvel may be the best starting point there.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, are they going to start and end the Secret Invasion storyline in these 6 episodes, or are they going to introduce it and then it's going to be far down the line that like we get, the Skrull Avengers and that whole story?
Yeah,
Secret Wars is, I get that Secret Invasion is going to pull from Secret Wars, but technically Secret Wars is like its own thing too. So like,
yeah,
will that be a future? I don't know. I'm excited that the series is already here, and it's not, it's not something that we have to wait a couple years for. But
I don't know if either of you did, but they did secretly unlock like the first 5 minutes. I don't know if either of you watched that.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's
I'm gonna do that right now.
Well, yeah, you gotta go. I think I shared you. Yeah, they basically put it on the website, but you had to find the code. And then eventually, like once someone found the code, it went viral.
Oh, sure.
And you put in the code and you can watch the first 5 minutes.
That's pretty cool.
I saw where you sent that to me, or to us rather, and I was like, no, I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's yeah. I think most people have opted for it, but a lot of people are still like, I want to go in like, just want to see it all when it actually airs. Anyway, I watched it. I like it. I'm ready for more.
Well, on that note, I guess we'll kind of wrap up Jessica Jones for today and get you all excited for next week. It'll be our first episode of Secret Invasion, so join us for our watch along, and as we try to figure out where that's leading us, I guess, in the MCU. Who's going to show up? Who's going to be a Skrull? Ooh, it's all spooky. So I'm super excited. I'll say I kind of want to do like a Skrull themed question this week, just because we are doing that next week. Maybe like if you, I don't know. I always think of Super Skrull when I think of Skrulls. Less so the fact that they can just like copy anyone and their powers. But so I guess if you could be a Super Skrull, but you could only choose one of his 4 powers, which power would you pick? So it's basically like the Fantastic Four powers, but you know.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that'll be the question this week. So let us know on social media. Word it as which of the Super Skull powers do you want? Because I'm sure eventually we'll do which of the Fantastic Four do you want to be. So that'll be different. But yeah, on that, we'll see you next week.
Bye.